Hello, everyone. Welcome to Gentry's Journey. I'm your host, Carolyn Coleman, and we have Dr. Velma Bagby on. And we're going to talk about numerous topics, but we're going to start out with this inspirational quote by Corey Ten Boom. Never be afraid to trust an unknown future to a known God. It's short but powerful. And I really do like it. If you really think about it, never be afraid to trust an unknown future to a known God. And that's by Corey Ten Boom. So we're going to get started. We're going to let Dr. Velma introduce herself. We're going to focus on the upcoming anthology that we're a part of, which is Women of the Waiting Room. Not to give away too much. And we're also she's going to give us some snippets from her books, The Catch, and her latest one. So we will truly get a lot of information out of this. Are you ready, Dr. Velma?
Yes, I am.
Okay, go ahead and introduce yourself and we can get started with this.
Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here with my dear sis, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to just share with her and with all of you. I am Dr. Velma Bagby. I'm a best-selling Christian author, an award-winning author, certified dating and relationship coach. I'm a professional Christian speaker and CEO of Adonai Publishing, ordained minister as well. So here I am after beginning my writing career in 2018, and I am up to 16 books, maybe 17 soon. So I'm grateful to be here and share with you what I was able to contribute to this fantastic anthology. Looking forward to hearing from all of you.
And to the audience, you will love her series, The Catch. You will love it. The analogies are just so spot on. You know these things in the back of your mind, but she brought them all the way to the forefront. So, Dr. Velma, like I said, we're a part of the upcoming anthology, Women of the Waiting Room. 7 authors. So, can you tell us a little bit about your process, your chapter in the book,
One of
and
the
what
things that
made
I
you decide to be a part of it?
First of all, I enjoy working with Jacqueline, who is the head of the entire project. So I enjoy working with her. So I was excited about participating. And then when I heard the names of the other folks, I knew all of you all, and I did not mind jumping into this project because of that. All of the writers are upstanding women, and so I trust what they have to say, and I know they would be vulnerable and transparent in what they had to say. And I wanted to join this to be just that. So when I was looking at what to write about, that was my dilemma. And I always approach my writing based on Proverbs 3 and 6, and that is in all thy ways acknowledge him, and he
Mm-hmm.
will direct thy path. So acknowledge means to invite in. So I invited God in to determine what I was to write about. And lo and behold, this anthology took me to a place that I had totally forgot about, but
Mm.
it was so key to what and who I was to become later on in my life. This took me back to childhood, my early days, and I began to recognize, and I'll tell you more in a minute, I began to recognize some things about my journey that I thought was important to share. And as it began to evolve, I realized what my topic was going to be in terms of the title, and I knew I needed to tell more about this journey. Somebody needed to hear what I had to share, so I know it would bless them.
And sometimes in a process, you may start off with one conversation,
Hmm.
one topic leads to another. So this took you back to your childhood, something
It
you
sure
probably
did.
hadn't thought about in a long time.
Hmm.
That's awesome. That
It sure
is.
did. I,
Mm,
I,
that
I hadn't expected that. And even when Jacqueline developed the video for this particular portion of the project, it captured what I had to say so clearly. But again, I was discovering too what the simple things that my parents said to me and how important they were at the very beginning, because it came to a head towards the later stages of my life. But as a little girl, I wasn't thinking in terms of, okay, okay, yeah, okay, I'll do that, mom. Okay, dad, I'll do that. I had no idea that what they were saying to me was in their own way, speaking affirmations into my life, from my mother telling me to hold my head up and never walk with your head down unless you have something to be ashamed of, to my dad
Mhm.
calling me princess as a nickname. So that in itself began to become the title of my piece, Hold Your Head Up, comma, Princess, because what they said to me was so much more powerful than I understood as a little girl.
I understand that totally. I remember I think I was around 12, and I just would not be
Uh-huh.
still. I was throwing myself down on the sofa. I'd jump up, and I guess my dad had had enough. He said, "What is wrong with you?"
Right.
I said, "They're in school lying on me." And he said, "Let the lie be a lie."
Oh.
Just as simple as that. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I've been walking
Wasn't
around with
that?
this. Yeah, I'm walking around with this all day from school to to dinner time. And he was like, just let the lie be a
Yep.
lie. People will know the truth and still tell a
So much
lie.
wisdom.
Yeah, and to this
So
day,
much wisdom.
that has stuck with
Mm-hmm.
me and it goes with me. And a lot of times people are upset about this, that, and the other. They were like, why aren't you that upset? I said, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you say. You can't justify. I said, like my dad said, let the lie be a lie.
Mm-hmm.
And that just gave me so much
That's
strength.
because it's so wise, the wisdom that we can get from parents and other senior members of our family at times. I call it not being in high school anymore, even in the dating process. It's time to stop being in high school. You can't date like you're in high school anymore. So even with what your dad said, I talk about wisdom in that way.
Mhm.
I'm not in high school anymore. My emotions are not all over the place every time somebody does something, says something, looks at me cross-eyed, all of that, and I'm going to react or respond, or I feel as if I have to respond. No, I'm not in high school anymore, and I don't play those games anymore. So that's what it sounded like your dad was saying to you.
It was. That was just one
Hmm.
nugget he
You grew
gave.
up in that moment.
I did. I mean, it's like it was like someone stood me up, and
Yeah,
I stood tall, and I've always
yeah.
been petite. I stood tall, and I was
Hmm.
like, oh, okay. He said, "You don't
Right,
owe anyone anything but me and your mother." I
right.
was like, okay, and that was all I needed. The next day,
Hmm.
um, just walking down the hall, no big deal. It didn't matter if people were pointing. It didn't. None of that mattered because
Right,
he basically strengthened me and covered me at the same time.
right.
I didn't have to, it was no more of a worry. It was just no
Wow.
more. And I was like, wow. But it is a blessing for someone to observe and speak positively
Right,
into your life. It
right.
does a body good. It does your
Yes, it
mind
does.
good. I'm thankful for it to this day.
Mhm.
That's just one of
Mhm.
the nuggets. There's so many more, especially as I started growing up and started going out and dating and just being a young lady on my own. Just still pouring nuggets into me, still pouring nuggets. And to this day, I remember them all. And I used to share them with my friends. And they'd be
Oh,
like,
girl.
"Oh my goodness, your dad. I still remember when you said your dad said this, that, and the other." I was like, "Well, I decided I'd share it with people who I thought would receive it."
Now, Miss Carolyn, that's a book by itself. A little tiny handbook with just nuggets. Just call it that. Nuggets from my dad.
Well, that's
That's it.
confirmation because that came while I was
Girl,
speaking. That came through.
because we lack such wisdom these days. We
We
just don't
do.
have it.
We
And so
don't.
many of those coming up really need to hear those things. I think I was on an interview with, I think it was Cyrus. I was on an interview and I said, something came up and I said, well, we were talking about laying aside the weights and getting
Hmm.
rid of your past and all of
Hmm.
that and letting it go. You just don't have that kind of wisdom anymore. And in this interview I had with Cyrus the other day, something came up and I talked about laying aside the weights and how, broken people can hurt other people, even if it's a good
Absolutely.
opportunity. Person could be the perfect mate, possible mate for you, but because you're broken and have all these unresolved issues, you will not treat that person well because you're broken. And I
Yes.
said, my grandmother said, a broken glass will cut your lip.
Mm,
Isn't that true?
it is very true.
And the response is just to that statement, like, wow, I hadn't heard that before. But
Hmm.
I'm saying to you, those are the kind of statements we need to put back out there because people haven't heard those before. And it's so true. Just like taking apple with a rotten spot because you haven't resolved those issues in your past. You've got this spot, but put you in a basket with some good apples, and pretty soon all the apples will begin to develop a spot.
And that I saw that, and I've heard that one bad apple was spoiled a whole bunch. I've heard that all
Hmm.
my life. And one day I was passing by my fruit bowl. So I was like, why are you looking so dull? So I picked it
Yes.
up and it was right on the bottom. I said, you're getting out of here because you're infecting the rest of it. And I
But
threw it
guess
in the
what?
trash.
Presenting itself one way.
Yeah.
When you examine it, go back today, examine it closer,
And
you
then I
see
was
that
like,
it's rotten.
I said, "Look at you." Uh-huh.
Yep.
And I took it and I threw it out. I said, you're not gonna poison the well over here. You're getting out of here. And I had to
Well,
inspect
thank
the
you for
rest of
that, Carolyn. I'm going to add that to my Apple story, presenting yourself like you're so good looking and you're clean and ready to go. Pick it up and you find out it's not.
yeah. I was like,
That's
uh-huh.
a good one.
That was sneaky. That was a sneaky move. I said, but I caught you. I caught you.
Yep.
So I did. I
Yep.
chunked it and I was like, and it hit me, it goes as the saying goes, one bad apple will spoil the whole bunch.
That's right.
And it will. It
I
absolutely
heard that,
will.
but
Mhm.
I had not created the visual for it. And
Mhm.
that's what I had to do. I had to create the visual for it. I heard the saying,
Mhm.
but if you can see what that looks like, just
Yes.
like what you just described, for
Mhm.
me, I'm a
Mhm.
visual learner. And
Me
what you just
too.
described would
Mhm.
mean more to me than just that statement that we used to hear all the time.
Absolutely. I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm visual. I am
Mm-hmm.
truly. I have to see it to
Yep.
process it.
Yep.
Some people can read it. Yeah, I'll read it. But when I see it
Mm-hmm.
come,
Yes,
I'm like,
ma'am.
okay, I got it.
That's me.
Okay,
That's
I got
me.
that now. So that's great. So you can always, as an author, as a writer, as a creative, you can always use some nuggets from somewhere, something that you
Absolutely.
hear, something. I am real bad about not really writing a lot of things down. And I
Mm-hmm.
try to jot my notes down, and then I forget where I put my notes. And I'll be like, Lord, bring it back, bring it
Same.
back.
I remember praying things like that, and I try to quickly
Yes,
record it on my phone. I
yes.
was looking at 2017 recordings recently, and
Oh,
I said, because I like writing songs as well. My dad was a songwriter, and it's just, I love putting words to music. And I was listening to one, and I said, oh, this is a good one.
mm-hmm,
And I just thought it was just really beautiful to witness. So recordings help for me, even if something comes to my mind to add to a book. I will record it and then add it to the book later. And I'll tell you another trick. I
okay,
have recorded at times when it's a lot of information. I plug up my ear set, put
mm-hmm,
my phone on speaker, and lay the ear um, the earpieces next
mm-hmm,
to the phone and let it dictate it onto my computer.
okay.
So that's another little trick I've
Yeah,
used.
I will try all. The one that fits the most, and at those appropriate times, because I'm
Hmm.
a people watcher and I get
Yes.
some of my information by people because I'm going to make up the rest of it. People act up. They don't necessarily act up. It's just their mannerisms when they're in certain places. And I just weave a tale from how they're acting or reacting to a situation, and then I concoct an entire story in my head as to how this should end, what should have happened, and it'd be funny to me, And people see me smiling, they're like, "You having a good day?" I said, "Oh yes, I'm having a ball." Just me and my
Wow.
imagination. But
Wow.
yeah, especially when you're writing fiction, you have to get some clues from people from somewhere, and their mannerisms and their responses can be um, can be very useful. I'll
Yes.
put it
That's
that way.
right.
They can be very useful.
Absolutely.
The seven of us, we all met on the book slam. Am I correct?
I think that's where we all met. I believe so.
Mm-hmm. And that's when I heard you read from the catch. I'm not sure which one it was because this was a few years ago.
Let me finish with the hold your head up, princess, because I wanted to just make sure you guys were
Oh,
clear.
definitely. Yes.
My mother's words were hold your head up unless you have something to be ashamed of. That was my
Mhm.
mother. My dad, because I was his first daughter, called
Mm.
me princess. He gave me that little royal title. And my story is about, although I started out with those beautiful affirmations from them, because I didn't recognize them as affirmations until sometimes later. But that
Sure.
was exactly what they were giving me until I talk about the fact that the world didn't agree with my parents. And the world began to chip away at what my parents said about me. An environment where you're black, the only black
Mm.
secretary in the building. They
Mhm.
used it as an opportunity to write me up on my probation as not haughty and holding my head up. And the world didn't agree. Even in sixth grade, I was happy. I didn't know I was living in a neighborhood of poor people. My family was poor, had less than. And so the world slowly began to introduce their version of me, and so it made it difficult growing up, holding on to what they said
Mhm.
about me. And so that's what I wanted to tell you about that. So I tell the story of my journey, and each stage of it, I say what was chipping away at my worth based on what my mother and my father said to me that day.
Isn't that
So that's the
something?
story. Yeah, but it is
It
because I'm growing
is.
up in the 60s and 70s. Things
Mhm.
weren't as well. It's not perfect today, but it wasn't as bad back then as now as it was back then. But it was very clear that what I believed about myself, the world didn't believe and didn't accept at all. Matter of fact, the world tried to tell me I was something else.
Absolutely. I
Hmm.
remember, I think we may have been in high school, and my brother had to do an assignment or something about income
Uh-huh.
and where our parents' income fell in. And he said, "Well, we're medium, so we're good. We're not we're not poor." And my dad said, "Don't tell nobody that. Let them think we poor."
Right. I didn't see that about myself. I didn't even say that I was poor. I never said I lived in a poor neighborhood.
Because we
The
didn't
world,
know.
no, we did not. We were happy. I
We
was
were
happy. My
yes,
family, I enjoyed my family. The neighbors were all supportive and helpful,
absolutely.
and we didn't know those. I didn't know I was a latchkey kid
No,
till I
no.
heard it on the news one day.
I understand totally what you're saying about well, I thought this and you're telling me that, and and when you had to go into other school systems and you started
Yep,
growing up and
yep.
you didn't know they were closing your schools and you didn't know you were being zoned to another school. You
Hmm.
thought as you got older that's just how you matriculated through,
Right,
but
right,
you look back and you were like,
right.
oh no, this was a plan. This thing was planned from the beginning.
Hmm.
And we were happy where we were. We were happy where
Yeah,
we
we
were.
were.
Everybody was supportive,
Yeah.
but I am thankful for all the changes that took place now.
Uh-huh.
I'm
Uh-huh.
thankful. I'm so
Yeah, we
thankful.
are very grateful.
Yes, but everybody still did not and still do not see you as your parents saw you.
No, you don't. And then, the quality of education has changed too, because I remember when I was in high school, we had choices and tracks we could select. Selected the business track. So
Mhm.
therefore, all of my classes were related to business.
Mhm.
We had life skill classes. We were taught to cook. We were taught how to take care of a child.
Mhm.
We were trained in high school how to handle a household and even finances and budget and banking. We were taught those things in high school, and those things,
Mhm.
none of it is taught anymore.
Yeah, they don't know how to do an envelope
No,
or a postcard.
no.
And we thought it was dorky when they had us to write a postcard or a
Uh-huh.
letter to a
Mm-hmm.
friend or a letter to a
Mm-hmm.
business person, but we did have those skills and you are correct. They were there.
Yeah.
I took the academic track.
Mhm.
We in the school that I was in was known for its business,
Yeah.
their business track.
Yes.
But I took the academic, and my best friend, she took the general. I just don't know if I can do it. I'm not as smart as you. I said, you can do it. It can be done. It can be
Girl,
done.
that's what I'm saying.
It can be done. But so that's why how we started being in different classes. She decided to
Mhm.
take general. I decided to stick with the academic track, and I'm glad I did. I have no regrets
Me
about
too.
that.
Me too.
Yeah, but you still get diluted. The more the more you take that alternative road, the more dilution comes in. But I will
Yeah,
say I had great English and lit instructors
I did too.
from eighth grade up.
Yeah, my stenographer teacher, I had 2 years of stenography because my goal was to become a court reporter.
Hmm.
And the one she was stiff. At the time I thought she was mean, but she wasn't. She was just serious and
Hmm.
focused, and I learned the most from her class.
And that's
And
sometimes you
so,
do.
yeah,
Hmm.
and I still take stenography to this day by hand. I still do it.
That's
And
great.
so I was grateful for that. And that was the door I got to beginning with the state of California. They were looking for stenographers after I graduated. So I said, "Oh, okay, mom, I can go to school at night. I can go to
Hmm.
college at night."
Hmm.
And because my goal was to get off of my mother's payroll. She raised 8 children. And I said, I don't want to stay on her payroll much longer. So
Hmm.
I knew I wanted to get a job and then go to school at night. And I got the job with the state as a stenographer because I passed the test for it. And that's how I began my career and just worked my way up after the 38 years and retiring as a deputy administrator. So the very office I walked into to apply for my first job, I became the manager of that office later on. And
That's
then
great.
later, I became the deputy administrator over that entire area. So to know that that's where I began and also the place where I can continue to make sure they had the services and that their needs were being met, that was a blessing to me because that was how I started.
That's great. Um, it's funny. One of my friends lived two doors down. Why don't you become a candy striper? I'm like, what's a candy striper? That's just how much I knew about medicine, okay, or hospitals or
Hmm.
whatever. She said, oh, you just put on this cute little uniform. You go volunteer once a week. And they have a club at school, so join it. And I was like, okay. She was kind of like a big sister, so I
There's
said
the door.
okay. Yeah, and that opened that door. And I think
That's
about it from
awesome.
time to time. And I have worked professionally at that small hospital at part-time. I never wanted to be at a small hospital when I was at the peak, when I was entering into the profession of nursing. I had a certain visual in my head. I didn't want to be at
Yeah.
a very large university, and
Hmm.
I took that route. But eventually, over the years, I went back there and worked part time, and I was like, it's still set up like it was when I was in high school, but but it worked out.
No improvements, huh?
Well, no, very little, very little. In fact,
Wow.
they are going to move into a brand new hospital. They're having it built now, and it's supposed to go into August. So I just feel like it's my duty to take the tour. I owe it to myself to take the tour. So
Yeah.
I'm going to somehow or another get an invitation to the open house. I'm going to do it.
Right.
I don't know. But it's going to work. All I know it's going to work out if I have to just show up like an uninvited guest and play dumb. It doesn't matter. It's going to work out.
Wow.
But I think that will kind of bring it full circle for me,
Hmm.
because I've been in other places when they've opened new buildings or
Yeah.
started a new department, and I never had the opportunity to really peruse them because I was always so busy. My patients couldn't be put on hold while I took a tour, no matter what my job title was. So I just feel like this will bring that full circle. So we'll see. We'll see what God has
It's
planned for that.
beautiful.
Mm,
It's
yeah,
beautiful.
we'll do that.
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah. So it's wonderful that your parents had the foresight to your dad called you princess, your mom told you to hold your head up,
Yeah.
because you have to do those things or you will find yourself melting down.
Oh, the world could have easily,
Yeah, gobbled you up.
I could have been a victim of all of that and
Mhm.
never became as successful as I did
Yes.
had I just accepted all of it.
Mhm.
And there were some times when it was just really disheartening to think in terms of what the world will say to you, do to you, um, in terms of how it can chip away at your worth, especially back then. It just wasn't built for us in terms of motivation and making sure that you understood that you were valuable. And so it took some time. And I credit, getting married early to boost um, my worth. I mentioned that in there because I got married very early at 20.
Mhm.
And then there were other things that came along. I remember in sixth grade when we had to complete our high school paperwork in sixth grade. As we prepared for junior high, we had to
Mhm.
write down our names. Everybody in my class just about had a middle name except for me. And I said, you know what? My dad calls me Princess. I'll put Princess in the middle.
Mhm.
And it shocked my mother on the day of graduation when they called my name from my diploma and said Velma Princess Johnson. After which my mom asked, where did they get the princess from? And I just shrugged my shoulder.
No, no. No,
But
no.
it was almost like I was subconsciously trying to continue to make sure everybody knew what my dad spoke over my life.
And that's great.
And isn't that something?
Mhm.
So if you
Mhm.
guys don't accept it, at least it will say you'll see it on here and know that that's who he called me to be. But isn't that who God calls us as his daughters? And so
Amen.
what my dad was saying really was the same thing that I discovered much later in the life that God referred to me as his
That's great.
precious daughter.
Mhm. That's
So
great.
anyway, that's my story.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. We're not gonna give away much more,
No,
but
not much more.
it's I can't wait to read them all. I
Uh-huh.
cannot. And
Absolutely.
audience, we have trailers out that speak to our story,
Hmm.
and they pull you in. I'm not saying just because my trailer's out there. They
Right.
pull you in.
They
I
really
mean,
do.
it makes you thirst for what
Hmm.
is in store. So
Yeah.
if you see them out there, we're going. Hey, they're on social media,
That's right.
on different platforms, and they give you a hint as to everyone's story. And
Wow.
it's something. It really is. I do appreciate. I can't even think of the word. They're captivating. The trailers are captivating. So if you see them, you'll know to pick up this book.
Yeah. They're very
Women,
profound.
Women of the
Very well
Waiting
done
Room,
trailers.
very well. Oh, just
Hmm.
professionally done. So, um, it's a sneak peek, but they are captivating, and you're going to want to pick up our anthology, Women of the Waiting Room, Surgery for the Soul, and enjoy the book. Enjoy that anthology. And like we said, the vessel of the anthology is Mrs. Jacqueline Cox. So, and we're quite pleased with her, um, as to what her vision and how it's going forward, and to see it unfold. It
Yeah,
has been wonderful.
that's true. It's
Hmm.
been great. I love it.
Yes, absolutely. Now, are you ready to talk about the
Let's
cat
talk
series?
about the cat series.
Okay. Well, I'm giving it to you. Start with
Okay.
the what the.
I have four books out now, and as
Hmm.
our host Carolyn has mentioned, the fourth book was released April 1st of this year. That's The Catch Book of Fools. But it begins with book one, which just tells the story about a young lady. And let me just explain why I wanted to do this. After counseling and meeting and having conversations with women over 30 years, now it's 40 plus years.
Hmm.
It used to say 30 plus, now it's 40 plus.
Okay.
And even sitting with my husband in pre-counseling session, marriage sessions, and watching some of the mistakes and errors that I witnessed and saw and had conversations about, I just felt like it was time to go back and figure out a way to, again, like we talked earlier, capture some of the wisdom we learned and we gained and share it with others because some of these things are not being discussed or addressed anymore, and most likely, in many cases, no longer in the churches as well. And so I wanted to figure out a way to do that. And I decided to use Christian contemporary fiction I didn't want it to be a nonfiction book, even though my fourth book is, and I explain that in just a moment. But I wanted it to be presented in the way that Jesus presented the parables. Jesus presented over 50 parables, and the whole intention of the parables was to use something that was common to the person, then build the story around it so that the person he's talking to can discover themselves in the story. Then he always provided options or a way to change or a way to escape. And at the end of the story, he left it up to the person to make that decision. I said, oh, that's what I want to do in this Christian contemporary fiction. So all my stories are built like that so that people can discover themselves in them. Not me preaching to them or saying this is what you need to do, but just telling the stories so that it resonates with the readers. Book one is about a young lady who was a millennial, finished college, successful in her career, but she had set a goal to be married by 30, and in the book she's 32. So she's desperately going through men quickly just to meet that deadline she created for herself. And her father
Mhm.
witnesses this and distraught because he's a pastor and teaches a singles class, wanted to figure out a way to intervene, and he prayed and asked God for help. God's answer to him was use what you know. He's an expert at fishing, so that's what he used. He
Mhm.
developed these analogies of fish taken from the men that he saw his daughter dating and created these characters called the catfish, and the catfish loves garbage, the pufferfish, who is considered to have a human-like eyes, nice looking face, but when he's agitated, he puffs up 3 times his size with the poisonous points coming out of his body. And then he had the salmon who hated getting caught, and then the sturgeon who likes to nibble everywhere he goes. And in all these cases, except for the fifth fish, which is called the goldfish, all these other fish were non-committal, were men represented men who were not interested in committing. And so the father, as he begins to roll out these stories for his daughter, they, the daughter was so amazed at how her father weaved these stories about the men that she's dated that it got her attention
Mhm.
to the place where at the end of this trip, he encouraged her to stop focusing on a deadline and focus on herself. And that's kind of the conversation I have a lot. We focus so much on the goal, the end goal, and not enough on getting yourself ready for the end goal. We do it with everything else, just as you and I talked about our career choices, things that we wanted to accomplish. We made sure we got all of those ducks in a row. Well,
Yes,
it goes for marriage too.
it
You need to
does.
make sure that you're getting yourself prepared for that. Because if you make a list for him, can you meet that list? Most times it's a no. And so that's what the father does. And so as a result of that very first book, I thought I was writing one novel, and it took off so much and so well that readers said we need more fish analogies. And that resulted in book two being written. And book two is called The Wrong Catch. Again, bringing back the fish analogies, but this time I used what's called trophy fish. And
Mhm.
the trophy fish are the fish that are considered the elite group of fish because they're part of a multi-million-dollar competition. And so these are your elitist fish. And in the characteristics of the trophy fish as men, these are the guys that feel that they're above you. And so if God calls the woman to be his crown and is of value and worth, of value and worth, and where does that place you if you're meeting a guy that already feels like he has that spot? And so you're competing with him in terms of his entitlement and his arrogance. And many of them are even narcissistic. And
Mm.
so that's book two. Then I heard from the readers who were my male readers. I didn't know I had a pocket of male readers, but they asked, when are you going to address the wrong women today? That became book three, The Wrong Catch. She'll tear down the house, based on Proverbs 14 and 1. Says a wise woman builds, but a foolish one tears it down. So again, dealing with women who are not the best choices, just like in the other two books that dealt with the men who are not the best choices. All throughout all of those books, from books one, two, three,
Mhm.
I talk about foolish behavior and what God describes as a fool. He's given us over 200 warnings in scriptures about fools and foolish behavior. So I'm not calling a person a fool. God called them a fool and foolish behavior. So I said, and that's when I felt led to write the Catch Book of Fools. Someone
Mhm.
might want to know where their scriptures are and what they have to say about foolish behaviors. And it was so telling and so revealing that it was important to put this in the book. And so I did the research to see, well, wait a minute, my Catch series is Christian contemporary fiction. Can I integrate a nonfiction in a contemporary fiction series? And the answer is yes. You can change genres in
Absolutely.
series. And I didn't
Mhm.
realize that you could.
Mhm.
So once I got the green light, I began to put those scriptures together, work with my virtual assistant, and got them done and got it ready in time for April Fools. And it released that day. And again, some people have said, you not only created a book that's a great tool to put in a person's dating toolbox, but you created a great tool for us to use even in business relationships or even in friendships on how to avoid this kind of toxic situation based on what God has already told us about their characteristics. And so it has been phenomenal to get that kind of feedback.
Wow. That I definitely understand. I think sometimes we don't realize what situation we're in until we see it.
Yeah.
And so
Yes.
when you put the book, when you put the thoughts into print, people saw can see it better, in my humble opinion.
Hmm.
Because when I read them, I'm like, wow, where
Wow.
was this book?
I know so many
Where
people said that.
would you, Dr. Bell, you're late. You're late.
I'm so sorry.
But but I thank God for the spirit of discernment. I can usually pick out a nut really quickly
We'll
and walk
see.
on by.
There you go. But
Yeah, I
not
really
everybody
can.
can.
No, everybody cannot. They cannot. And you be sitting back saying, no, no, this is a train wreck ready to and waiting to happen. You actually believe what he was selling, girl. Stop. But they don't want to hear you because they're infatuated. That's fine.
Oh, now
But
you just said the word right there. They've fallen in love with the condition of the person and not the
absolutely.
credible characteristics of the person, which is where you want to go. You want to look at the person's heart. Who is this person really? And stop making excuses. Oh, he's just like that sometimes.
Yeah,
No,
no, no,
that's a
no.
red flag. It's
It's a
red for a
red flag.
reason.
It's red for a reason. It's red
Hmm.
for a reason. And
Yeah.
that's unfortunate. That is unfortunate.
Yes.
I to me, simply put, why can't we all just be ourselves?
Yes.
And show, because eventually it's going to show. And
Yeah.
who wants that type of disappointment? Oh, I can't believe anything you've said. I can't believe anything that you've done. It was all an
Yeah.
act. And that's not fair.
And not only that, have a conversation with one. What some of the fools are described as people who hate to listen, who has their own opinion, and you can't change it. That you
You
can't
can't change it.
challenge their opinion, even if they
Hmm.
have less information than you.
Yes.
You won't change it.
Hmm.
Quick tempered, lack of self control,
Hmm.
hates,
Hmm.
lying lips. You
Hmm.
should be able to pick up on those things very easily.
Very easily. Very easily. I remember I was dating this guy and just we had met and we were at the diner getting something to eat on our way back. And he was just, oh, that this is going to be this the perfect sandwich. I've had a taste for this all day. It's going to be grilled. Oh, it's going to be great. And he just kind of lost it over the mayo. I'm like, oh Lord, how do I get out of this situation? Well, I know what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna wait till he drops me off at home and I'm done. And that's just what I did. Like, if you're losing it over mayo and you want to have an argument over mayo, I don't even like mayo. And I was like, nah, nah, red flag. I mean, swinging in the wind, the red flag was
Right,
swinging in the wind
right,
because I'm not argumentative. I don't like to just pick fights and pick people apart. I
right,
just there's enough going on, in my humble opinion. Life is going to bring its own set of issues, and we don't have to create any. We don't have to create any. Life, just living life, is going to bring its own set of issues. And so when he called the next day, oh, where we going? I said, we're not. Why? What happened? I said, I'm not in. I'm not an arguer. I said that just disrupts my equilibrium. It just throws me
Right.
all the way off. Well, everybody argues now, so you're gonna argue about why we
Right.
so that's red flag number two. I said, you just see what happened here. Well, I mean, I just, I said, I work around people like you. I work around women like you. I'm not going to be dating a guy that just loves to pick an argument because you're going to be picking it by yourself. And that's
That's
just
what
me.
happens. Yes.
Hmm. It's not going to happen. I'm not going to adjust myself to that. I'm not going to, and didn't do it. And he couldn't understand it for a while until I just had to get very, very firm and said, stop, don't
Right.
call, don't drive by. You can go in a circle, but don't drive by here. I'm done. And because you're pushing me into a relationship I really don't want to be in. And
Right.
I got no. When I stand up, it is what it is. No, I'm not.
Mhm.
This is not going to be a good. This is not going to be good, and it's not going to be healthy. So no, I'm not doing it. So you have to see it, call it for what it is, and exit stage right, left, whichever way you want to go, whichever one opens
Right.
the door first. But if
Right.
that's not you, don't go along with it. Don't sugarcoat it. It's not going to work because the true
Right.
individual is going to come out. So
I
some of this
agree.
we can stop. Some of this we can stop if we see the red flags and stop trying to giggle them off. Um, but that comes with wisdom. I mean, that comes with age and with wisdom. So your books are truly on time with dating and the things that come along with dating. And I was so
Absolutely.
tickled when you came out with the third one. And you say to me, we need help over here too. Don't
Yeah,
just
that's
help.
interesting. And the other thing that I did with that is I interviewed a few of the godly men that I knew.
Mm-hmm.
What tell me some of the challenges you've had in dating? And so that's how I created those characters. The hyena, a lot of people think that the hyenas are laughing, but they're not. It's the female that's barking orders to lead the whole clan. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a character called the hyena, the
Mm-hmm.
black widow spider who gets what she
Yeah.
wants from her mate and then kills him. So the
Mm-hmm.
story opens with that particular character, with the fact that she just she pretty much pressured her husband to the point where he died an early death. So there's many cases,
Yeah.
it's some crazy ones in there.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
women have gotten just as bad as the we used to claim that the men were, but there are women that are just as bad now in
They
terms of
are.
presenting themselves one way that they're not. They're not
Yes.
prepared, and they can be very dangerous. So again, God calls these examples fools,
Mm-hmm.
and we need to be aware of it.
We do need to be aware, and we
Hmm.
don't need to put the mask on. We don't need to
No,
put the foundation on all of this. It's a couple of scenarios in my head. This movie, I'm gonna get you, sucker, where Keenan wins and
I
was
remember
dating.
that.
So and so when
Yes,
she started pulling off her wig and her booty, and he was like, "Not the booty,"
yes, I remember that.
and so and I was like, but that and fast forward it to today, it's more of it. It's more of the
Wow,
fakeness. It's more,
it
and
really is.
and he's running and crying. He's running from her as opposed to running to her because she's not
Hmm.
the woman that he thought she would be. So just be real. Have people to accept you for you. And if there's some attributes that you have that you don't like, you can adjust those things.
Well, if the
But
goal is for a lifelong mate, that you
hmm
should take that a little bit more seriously. A lot
I
of people
agree.
love they're driven by the idea of a marriage and a
hmm
wedding and a beautiful wedding, but they have not taken the time to look at what is life like after you say I do.
I
What
agree.
is that going to look like for you?
Yeah,
And what work have you done to really make sure that you've invested in yourself? Self-examination is important. And what have you done to make sure he's ready?
And that's true. That's very true. The
Hmm.
wedding is just the formality.
That's all it is.
It's just a formality. It is
Yeah.
the living together and being together and growing together. You just may recognize, oh, I saw this, I ignored it. Had no idea this existed. So
Hmm.
you need to be honest that the next
That's
individual needs
true.
to be honest as well with who they are and what they're about. And that is the what creates the quality in the relationship. So either
That's
you're going
true.
to go in with it being weak or you're going to go in with it being strong, and you're going to build, continue to build on that. But if it's
Yes.
weak, you've just gone through a lot of formality about nothing.
That's true.
And
True.
it's
And
sad.
headache
Oh
and hurt.
yes. Oh, headache, hurt, disappointment. And
Disappointment.
and so how can one person be happy in a relationship when the other one is not?
That's right.
They're not.
That's right.
They're not. So
So,
so we need to be open and honest because it's going to come to surface as I have heard before, what's in you is going to come out you.
yeah.
So yeah, you can put on the sugar, the spice, all of that, but if that apple is rotten, it's just a rotten apple you baked. It's
We're going back. I love that analogy, by the way.
yeah, we're going
Please.
back to that rotten apple. I don't care how much sugar and butter and cinnamon you put on it, it's still a rotten apple.
That's
So
all it's going to be.
you can't
Yeah.
dress it up. You
That's
just
right.
cannot. But I have enjoyed this. What are the
Me too.
That's been great. Um, so that was all four books. She condensed them, guys, but they are fabulous. They really are fabulous. It'll make you think. You want to give them as gifts to people who are dating or thinking of dating, so that they and tell them to read them, and you want to hear what they got out of the books, okay?
And
Because
I
it.
also
Go
I
ahead.
also have a full cards game that goes along with it as well. If you want to order that
Explain that.
separately,
Explain that card game to me, please.
it's a matching game, and
Mm-hmm.
we've taken all the scriptures, 80 scriptures, color coded them as for a matching card game. And basically,
Mm-hmm.
what you do is you lay it down face down, so that as you hanging out with whoever you want to hang out with, you want to discover more, and have conversations around what God says about a fool or foolish behavior, and you try to turn over two cards at a time, just like you would with a matching game, to try to match your colors, and you keep doing it until you match a color, or you get a couple of those bonus cards where you get scores, you get a score right away. And so from there, make sure you have some great prizes, because the one who gets the most matches while you're having conversations around your cards that you discover, your matches that you discover.
Mm-hmm.
So you're having fun and you're winning something all at the same time.
That sounds good. That sounds really good. Because the object is to learn.
That's all.
Uh-huh. Either to
It should
learn from
become
your
a natural.
Sure. Either learn from your mistakes or learn from someone else's or
Hmm.
know what to avoid.
Wisdom, wisdom, wisdom. You're right, Carolyn.
Absolutely. 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 Well, this has been phenomenal. Thank you so
I
much
enjoyed it.
for being
Thank
a
you
part
too.
of Gentry's journey. Um, and I do tell us where we can find you.
I'm on all social media platforms as Dr. Velma Bagby. In one case, I think on Instagram, it's author Dr. Velma Bagby. But
Mm-hmm.
you can also make sure that you subscribe and go to my websites. Unlike the card game, it's only available from my website right now. The books you can get on Amazon. So my website is drvelmabagby.com. So feel free to reach out.
Oh, that's great. That is great. We have enjoyed having you. If you would close us out in prayer, I would appreciate it.
I would love to.
Thank
Heavenly
you.
Father, we thank you for this beautiful, beautiful conversation we had today, Lord. Thank you for the um, nuggets of wisdom that came from both of us today. Thank you for the sharing. Thank you for what we were able to discuss and share with others out there listening. I thank you for this platform that you've designed to do just that, to get the word out about what others need to hear, whatever the topic this host decides to cover. I just pray, Father, that you continue to cover her family, Lord, and continue to strengthen her body as she recovers from what she just recently went through. And I pray that something we talked about today got the attention of someone who really needed it. And so we thank you and we praise you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. And thank you all for joining us on Gentry's Journey. Our honored guest was Dr. Velma Bagley with the Catch series, and you really need to get those books.
Do it for me. Oh Lord, do it for me. Oh Lord, if you don't do it, it just won't be done. So Lord, do it for me. Sometimes I get desperate and I say it like this. I say, Lord, fix it for me. Anybody know that only God can do it? Oh, fix it for me. Oh, thank you, Jesus. Because, Lord, I have a problem that only you can solve. So, Lord, do it for me. Can y'all play that for me? Lord, do it for me. Lord, I need you to do it right now. I can't wait till tomorrow. Do it for me. Lord, if you don't do it, it just won't be done. So Lord, do it for me. Listen, Lord, fix it for me. Anybody know God can do it? Oh, Jesus, fix it for me. need God to do something right now. Come on, say, God, I need you to do